Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are solving another rational equation using the lowest common denominator. So if you're ready, let's get started. So we're going to begin solving our rational equation by finding our LCD first. I remember that the LCD we find by using all of the items or all of the terms in our denominator. So in my first fraction, I have an m in the denominator. The second fraction, we have 2m. And in my third fraction, we have 2m plus 5. Now with my 2m plus 5, please do not mistake that or mix that up with the 2m that's by itself. Remember that our expressions are never separated. Those stay together, and just because a common term may exist in the expression, like how we have 2m, a part of 2m plus 5, and then we have 2m that stands alone, we by no means mix those up. So automatically in my LCD, my 2m plus 5 would automatically be a part of that LCD. Now with looking at my m and my 2m, now these two terms are a little different from how we'd work out the expression, because with 2m and m, I know that I can take m and multiply it to 2 to get 2m. So because of that, I can now use 2m as a part of my LCD. So now that we have identified our LCD, let's begin converting our fractions into their equivalent form. Now remember that we are going to do that by working out each of these fractions separately so that we can make sure that we are converting our fractions correctly and that you are able to follow along with the steps, which is most important, because you have to know what you are doing in order to convert them to their LCD. So let's begin with my first fraction. So now I'm going to cancel out with my denominator and my LCD. So I have an m, I will cancel that there, and then I will cancel the m from beside my coefficient 2. So now we are left with 2 and 2m plus 5. And my 7, I'm not going to begin the multiplication with that. Well, rather I am going to do that. I'm going to multiply my 7 times 2, which will equal to my 14, and in parentheses we still have the 2m plus 5, and of course at this point we are going to expand those parentheses, so we're multiplying 14 times 2m, which will equal to 28m, and then my 14 will also be multiplied to my 5, and 14 times 5 will equal to 70. So now that we have converted my first fraction into its equivalent form, let's plug that back into our equation. So we have 28m plus our 70. And now that we have changed our first fraction, let's begin with my second fraction, which is and I am going to use the negative with the 4. That's so that after I am done converting my fraction, I don't have to worry about going back and have to distribute my negative to everything that will be in my solution from this conversion. So I will just use the negative 4 one time to eliminate that entire headache. So it's all about trying to work a little smarter here and not harder. So let's begin with our canceling, and of course we're going to cancel the 2m because it is common to both of our LCD and our denominator. And now my 4 will be multiplied to everything that's in the parentheses. So we have 4 being multiplied, negative 4 being multiplied to 2m, which would equal to negative 8m. And then our negative 4 is also going to be multiplied to my 5, which will equal to a negative 20. And let's plug that back into our equation. So we have negative 8m minus 20, And now for our last fraction, which is, I'm gonna have to extend this a bit, which is my 3. And in denominator, we have the 2m plus 5, multiplying that to our LCD. Remember, everything is multiplied to the LCD. And now we are going to begin the canceling process. So our 2m plus 5 will cancel the 2m plus 5. So we now have 3 being multiplied to 2m, which will equal to 6m. Okay, so now that we have converted everything into its equivalent form, we are now going to remove our denominator to begin solving for our unknown variable m. And once I have moved everything down, I will begin collecting my like terms. So we have our 28m plus 70 minus 8m minus 20 equals 6m. Okay, so let's begin collecting our like terms. So 28m minus 8m will equal to 20m. And then we have 70 minus 20, which will equal to positive 50. And I'm going to bring my 6m down. So I'm going to now collect my like terms. So I have 50, and I'm going to move my 20 over to my 6, so which will equal to minus 20m. So we're going to have 50 is equal to negative 14m. So now let's solve to get our variable m on one side of the equation by itself. So I'm dividing both sides of my equation by negative 14. So my 14s will cancel. And of course, with 50 and 14, they have a common term or factor, which is 2, since both are even numbers, so I can divide by 2. So 50 divided by 2 will equal to 25. And negative 14 divided by 2 will equal to negative 7, which is equal to m. So this is the answer for our equation. So now let's perform our check. So we found that m was equal to negative 25/7. So let's replace m for negative 25/7 everywhere that it appears in our equation. Making sure that all the signs are put in as they should be. Don't want to leave anything off. We're already working with fractions. And the fraction is a negative as well, so you know that's even more of a concern to make sure that everything is written in correctly. So make sure that when you get to this phase, you are paying attention. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, because you still may make a mistake, but just try as much as you can to pay attention to make sure that everything is written back as it should, so that when you begin working, you won't have to worry about little tedious mistakes that you are making, because I can tell you those tedious mistakes do cost you in the long run. Okay, so now let's simplify our denominator. So I have 7. I'm going to put that back. Since I'm not going to touch this fraction as yet, we will get to that a little later on in our working. Minus, we have 4 over 2 times 25 will equal to negative 57. And I know you're looking at the 2 minus. I'm going to also deal with that later, just simplifying the fractions for now. And now we are going to kind of just simplify the denominator on this one. So I'm going to tackle this whole denominator at the side, and then we will work through the rest a little later. So negative 25 7s plus 5, and multiplying 2 times 25 will equal to negative 57 plus 5. So now I'm going to take this negative 57s, and of course we're going to go through our whole LCD process, and the LCD for 1 and 7, and I'm saying 1 because we know that 5 has a denominator of 1, will equal to 7. So negative 50 will return since it doesn't have to change. And then we have 7 times 5 will equal to 35, and negative 50 minus 35 will equal to negative 15/7. And I will write that back in my denominator. Okay, so if you're not familiar with this step now, this is a step that I did in one of my other videos that I'm also going to work out here, where we're going to be taking our fractions from their fractional form. So my 7 all over my negative 25/7. I will be changing this into its division form. And then apply my rules for dividing fraction, which is to keep the first fraction the same. Change my sign to multiplication, and then take the reciprocal of the second fraction. And now we're going to multiply to get our answer. So 7 times 7 is going to equal to 49, and my denominator of 25 will stay the same. So that's the first step. Well, our first fraction. So we have negative 49/25. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing with my second fraction. But what I want to do here before I even dive into that, because we have a negative and a negative, and we know with multiplying integers, this will change to a positive. So I will change that to a positive right away just to handle that. And then I'm going to now work on the fraction. So we have 4/50th. We have 4 and 57th in our denominator, which will equal to my 4 times 57. Sorry, my 4, let's correct that. 4 divided by 57, which is equal to my 4 times 7/50ths. And 7 times 4 is 28, and my denominator will remain the same. So I now have 28/50th in my denominator. And now for the last fraction, which is my 3, I have negative 15/7, which is 3 divided by negative 15/7 equal to 3 times negative 7/15. 3 will bind itself once, 3 will go into 15 5 times, which would equal to negative 7/5. Now, if you have watched me work out some of these fractions before, you know that I've taken a variety of different approaches to these questions. But what I'm going to do, what I should have done earlier that I didn't notice that I did, is with this fraction, I'm now going to simplify that. Since I have a 25 in my denominator, and since I have a 25 in my denominator, I'm going to simplify that to the side. I didn't realize I didn't do it earlier. That kind of eluded me. So I'm going to do that now. So 28 divided by 2 is equal to 14, and 50 divided by 25 by 2 is equal to 25. So now I will have this fraction completely replaced with 14/25, and I'm going to put everything else back, and then we are going to see how all of this works out, because reducing the fraction kind of made more sense than trying to find the LCD, because if both of these on the same side of the equation has the exact same denominator, I can then work those two out and then focus on whether I need to do anything else afterwards. So now with 49 subtracting 14, we are going to get 35, negative 35/25. And you can see the equivalent fraction forming right away. So let's reduce now my 35. I'm going to reduce that by dividing both of the numbers in this fraction by 5. We're going to watch our equivalent fraction emerge from here. So 35 divided by 5 will equal to negative 7. 25 divided by 5 will equal to 5, which is equal to our negative 7/5 on both sides of the equation, which means that my solution of m is equal to negative 25/7 is the correct solution for this equation. Ooh, so that was a mouthful in working out this question. We had a lot of fractions, a lot of reciprocals, a lot of changing from division to multiplication, and all that other good stuff that makes fraction the wonderful part of math that it is. So I hope this video is very helpful to you. I hope you were able to follow along, and most importantly, I hope this helped you to work through any kinks, any questions, any concerns that you may have had. So remember that we have a lot of videos loaded on rational equation. So make sure that you try out some of those other questions as well. And then, work through the question with me to see if you get the same answer. Remember that you can always pause at the beginning, work it out, check your answer, and then, work along with me and see if what I got is the same thing that you got. But when you're ready to learn a new skill, make sure that you always return back to Jules Math Tools, where we make math easy.